July 9th, 1943. Above the Mediterranean Sea, the invasion of Sicily has begun. The C-47 Dakota bucks violently as flak bursts the sky around it. The interior stinks of sweat, oil, and nervous adrenaline. American paratroopers of the 505th Parachute Infantry Regiment cling to the red webbing seats, helmets rattling, knuckles white on their M1 carbines and Thompsons. Lieutenant John Red Dog Rafe wipes condensation from the small round window. What he sees is chaos. The invasion fleet below, over 3,000 ships, has triggered every Italian and German anti-aircraft gun in range. Orange tracers claw upward like flaming spears, hunting the slow, unarmored transports. 2 minutes! The jumpmaster shouts. The green light hasn't even come on yet, but the men are already standing. Each heavy parachute harness digs into shoulders. Griswold packs, leg bags filled with mortar rounds and extra ammo, more weight than any sane man would willingly jump with. Private First Class Eddie Kovacs breathes fast, eyes shut, murmuring a prayer against the roar of the engines. Next to him, Sergeant Tom Winters slaps him on the helmet. "Save it for the ground, kid. The Krauts'll hear you comin'." The joke lands flat. No one laughs. These paratroopers were told the drops would be clean. Ordered a nighttime insertion behind the beaches, they would seize crossroads and block German reinforcements, specifically the Hermann Göring Panzer Division. Command promised, surprise is their weapon. The enemy won't expect them. The Germans consider airborne troops reckless, lightly armed, and ultimately doomed once tanks appear. Let them think that, Colonel James Gavin had said. We'll show them what paratroopers can do. But nothing about tonight feels clean. The formation is shattered. Earlier, friendly naval gunners, spooked by rumors of German aircraft, opened fire on their own transports. Pilots panicked, veering off course. Now, units are scattered across the island, miles from their intended drop zones. Flak thunders again. Boom! Shrapnel rips through a wing of the lead plane. It bursts into a fireball, tumbling toward the dark sea. Men in the back scream as they watch comrades vanish in a streak of flame. The jumpmaster yanks the door open. A hurricane of wind blasts through the cabin. The red light flickers. "Stand in the door!" Rafe steps forward, boots planted, his parachute silk whipping like a captive animal. Below, nothing but black sea and jagged coastline. The red light turns green. Go! 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 And suddenly, men become silhouettes, flinging themselves into the void. Kovacs is pushed out before he can think. The roar of engines vanishes, replaced by eerie, whistling quiet. The darkness swallows him whole. Then explosions resume like angry thunder, but distant. Static pops in his headset. The island's outline emerges slowly, a patchwork of mountain ridges and fields dotted by muzzle flashes. His parachute snaps open, jerking his body violently. Around him, hundreds of white canopies bloom, and dozens burn in mid-air as flak tears through them. Screams cut off mid-fall. Wind hurls the drifting paratroopers anywhere but where they're supposed to be. Leg bags tear free and spiral away, a paratrooper's lifeline lost to the wind. Kovacs clenches his teeth. This isn't what they trained for. The ground rushes up, fast. He slams into a rocky field and tumbles hard, wrenching his ankle. Pain shoots up his leg. Still, training kicks in. He tears at his harness buckles, rolls, raises his weapon. Nothing, just his M1 bayonet. His rifle is somewhere back in the Mediterranean. Footsteps crunch behind him. He spins, ready to stab. A whisper. "Friendly! Friendly!" Sergeant Winters limps into view, Thompson in hand, helmet dented. More shapes gather. Maybe a dozen survivors. No radio. No mortars. No machine guns. They were meant to seize a critical crossroads. Now they don't even know where they are. But German trucks growl in the distance. Shouts echo through the night, commands in clipped German. Sergeant Winters scans the shadows, breath ragged. "We move toward those guns. We don't hide. We don't wait to die out here. A Panzer engine rumbles somewhere up the hill. Deep, mechanical, hungry. Kovacs swallows hard. The Germans believed lightly armed airborne troops would break at the first sign of armor. Tonight, these paratroopers will begin proving them dead wrong. Rafe rallies his small band. Let's go introduce ourselves. And they disappear into the darkness toward the enemy. And the legend of American paratroopers holding off German armored might begins in chaos, blood, and scattered determination on a Sicilian mountainside. No one expected them to survive.
July 11th, 1943. Near Gela, Sicily. Dawn breaks like fire behind the hills. Low mist clings to olive groves and dry wheat fields. American paratroopers, scattered, exhausted, and barely armed, crawl into shallow scrapes of dirt along a ridgeline overlooking the coastal plain. Piazza Ridge. Colonel James Gavin himself is here, 34 years old, tall, lean, his M1 Garand slung casually like it's just another tool. His helmet netting is stuffed with leaves, his face streaked with dust. He doesn't look like a colonel. He looks like one of them. Around him, 132 survivors of the 505th, a fraction of the force meant to be here. No machine guns, except one battered 30 cal. No artillery, ammo low. Across the plain, sunlight flashes off steel. Panzers, the Hermann Göring Panzer Division, roaring straight toward Gela to drive the Americans into the sea before the beachhead can solidify. A tank round whistles overhead. A geyser of dirt erupts behind the ridge. Gavin doesn't flinch. He grabs a young private by the collar. Dusty Miller, pale and shaken, 17 years old, too young to vote, old enough to die in Sicily. You hold this ground, Gavin says, voice steady as granite. We do not give them the ridge. The boy nods, breathing quick. Germans fan out below. Panzerkampfwagen 4s leading the charge. Behind them, trucks overflowing with grenadiers, columns of armored half-tracks grinding forward, engines snarling. The paratroopers should run. They know they should run, but they don't. Gavin moves down the line. Aim for the infantry. Let the tanks come. Trust your buddies. The first wave hits. Machine gun fire rakes the ridge. Paratroopers fire back. Precision shots. Germans drop into the wheat. Mortar shells explode among them. Makeshift fire from scavenged rounds barely recovered after the chaotic drop. A Panzer IV climbs the slope, turret swaying. Its cannon fires. Whoomp! A thunderous hit. Shrapnel slices through a squad's position. Sergeant Tom Winters rolls over, coughing blood. He forces himself up, fires another burst. Winters turns to Kovacs, voice hoarse. You see? They bleed too, but the tanks keep coming. Gavin grabs a bazooka team. Only one launcher, 2 rockets. Their hands shake as they shoulder the tube. The first rocket whooshes, misses. Dirt fountains off the tank's side. The Panzer turret whips toward them. Gavin dives, seconds before a shell vaporizes the bazooka crew. Helmet ringing, ears bleeding. Gavin staggers up. He refuses to stay down. He points toward the burning wreckage. We hold! On the left flank, Lieutenant John Red Dog Raff commandeers a 30 cal found in a crashed glider. He braces it against a stone wall, teeth clenched, brass casing spraying like golden rain. You want this ridge? Come take it! German grenadiers surge in, grenades bouncing into foxholes. Paratroopers kick them back, hurl their own. A close-quarters brawl erupts. Rifle butts, bayonets, fists. Blood mixes with powder and Sicilian dust. The ridge trembles again. Artillery now. German howitzers join the assault. The American line bends, cracks, but does not break. Gavin's radio finally crackles. Naval guns offshore have ranged in. He shouts coordinates over the roar of battle. Minutes later, distant booms. Then, salvation screams from the sky. Shells whistle down like divine wrath. Explosions rip through the German rear. Trucks overturn. Half-tracks flame. The Panzers stall, crews panicking as shrapnel rings off their hulls. The attack falters. Germans pull back amid smoke and shouts. Their dead lie scattered in the wheat. The surviving tanks reverse. Blackened and shaken, a sergeant tries to rally his men, but rifles keep cracking from the ridge, forcing them to crawl away. Silence slowly returns, broken only by moans of the wounded. Dusty Miller lowers his rifle. His whole body trembles. We stopped tanks," he whispers. Gavin kneels beside Winters, still breathing, barely. He grips his hand. "You held, Tom. You held. It's a miracle." "No, it's paratroopers." Word spreads quickly among the Germans. American airborne troops, dropped in chaos and confusion, lacking armor or support, had just defeated a full armored advance. It wasn't supposed to be possible, but in Sicily, on a nameless ridge, the legend began. Light infantry who would fight tanks, with nothing but grit and the will to stand their ground, and the Germans would never underestimate American paratroopers again, at least not for long, because a greater test waited across the Channel, in Normandy, where the sky itself would turn to fire.
June 6, 1944, 0015 hours. Over the Cotentin Peninsula, Normandy. Cold wind blasts through the open door of the C-47 as black shapes of French hedgerows slide beneath the clouds. The moonlight flickers against the channel below, thousands of ships stretching to the horizon, the largest invasion force in human history. Inside the troop bay, paratroopers of the 82nd and 101st Airborne, faces streaked with war paint, paratrooper knives strapped to boots, M1A1 carbines locked and loaded, gammon bombs stuffed into pockets for close work against armor. Private Joe Ramirez rubs his thumb over a small St. Christopher medallion. His buddy, Corporal Bill Anders, bumps his shoulder and grins. "St. Chris can't help you if you forget to pull the chute, Joe." A nervous laugh escapes. Just for a moment, fear pushed away. Then, the pilot's voice cracks through the cabin. "Enemy fire!" Tracer rounds streak upward like comets. The first plane in the formation blossoms into flames. Then another. Men watching horror as fellow paratroopers plummet in blazing wreckage. "The Krauts know we're coming!" someone yells. The jumpmaster steadies himself, gripping overhead straps. 30 seconds! The plane lurches. Flak bursts hammer the wings. Loose gear rains from racks. Men slam against each other, clinging to anything bolted down. Red light. Then, a metallic click. Green light. "Go! Go! Go!" One by one, silhouettes vanish into the screaming dark. Ramirez hurtles through freezing air, weightless, blind. The night sky is a wild storm of exploding shrapnel. Parachutes burn around him. Bodies fall past in horrific silence. His chute jerks open. Wind drags him sideways, straight toward a stand of tall hedgerows. He crashes through branches, slamming to a step in thick mud. He sits up, gasping, checking limbs. Rifle? Gone. Ammo? Lost. Just a knife and a couple grenades. He hears voices, German voices, boots crunching through grass. Ramirez presses flat to the ground, heart pounding. A German patrol marches past, rifles slung casually. They aren't afraid. They think this is a joke. The enemy doesn't yet understand what's falling from the sky. Not lightly armed pests, not scattered rabble, predators. Meanwhile, Major Richard Dick Winters of Easy Company hits the ground hard in a flooded field, his reserve chute tangled around him. He tears free, alone. Machine gun nests fire from a distant farmyard. A French cow, terrified, thrashes nearby. Winters mutters to himself, "Find the fight." He takes off, navigating by the distant glow of burning plains. Across the countryside, the same chaos unfolds. Some paratroopers drown in flooded marshes. Others land in town squares, executed before they can even unhook their chute. A few drop directly into German headquarters, blasting their way out with pistols and knives. No one lands where they should. Radios fail. Unit cohesion evaporates.
The Germans are baffled, shouting into radios, "How many are there? Where are they infiltrating from?" The answer? Everywhere. Small groups of airborne troops form in the dark, 4 men, 7 men, sometimes only 2. No heavy weapons, no clear orders. Only one objective still burns in their minds: block the German panzers from reaching the beaches. By 0300 hours, Winters has gathered a handful of stragglers, an impromptu squad. He doesn't wait for reinforcements. He nods once, raising his rifle. We are taking that gun battery. And with that decision, the scattered become focused. The hunted become hunters. Ramirez, Anders, Winters, and hundreds more, alone, undersupplied, dropped into hell, begin striking German positions with savage precision. They blow bridges, cut communication wires, ambush convoys in the night. Every action slowing the German armored response by minutes the men landing at Utah and Omaha desperately need. In Berlin, German generals had scoffed at American airborne doctrine. Light infantry? With no tanks? Dropped into our rear? They'll be crushed. But just like in Sicily, American paratroopers hold the line by refusing to break. And soon, German tank commanders would learn that moving through Normandy's tight hedgerows while surrounded by invisible killers is a nightmare no armor plating can protect against. The panzers are coming, and the paratroopers are waiting.
June 6, 1944, before dawn. Near Sainte Marie Église, Normandy, a church bell rings across the village square. Clang, clang, clang. The surreal echo bouncing between stone walls, still lit by burning buildings. The night's chaos settles into a chilling realization. The Germans are rallying. American paratroopers, disorganized, many without rifles or radios, gather in shadows near the first liberated town of the invasion, Sainte Marie Église. They've seized it in a whirlwind of gunfire, but holding it is a different monster. Major Dick Winters arrives from the north, guiding a ragged tail of paratroopers, helmets dented, faces blackened, uniforms soaked from marshland drops. He meets Lieutenant Colonel Vandervoort, his right leg shattered earlier, lashed to a door taken from a farmhouse. Pain etched into every line of his face, but his voice is controlled steel. We hold this ground. The Germans will try to cut off the causeways. If they take them, they'll drive our boys into the sea. Those causeways, narrow stone roads over flooded marsh, are the lifeline for troops landing at Utah Beach. Without them, every tank, truck, and jeep will choke the invasion to death. Winters nods. What do we have? Vandervoort looks over his meager defense. 30 men here, maybe 50 more scattered. Light weapons only. The Germans have armor. Winters exhales once. Good. Let them bring tanks. Lafayette Bridge, 3 kilometers west. Private Joe Ramirez, muddy and knife-armed, links up with Corporal Anders and a handful of troopers under Lieutenant John Red Dog Raff. They crouch behind a stone wall overlooking a narrow bridge. Fog hugs the riverbanks, thick enough to taste. Cows lie dead in the fields, grotesque shapes in the dawn gloom. Raff points. That's our choke point. If the panzers want Utah, they must cross here. As if summoned, diesel engines growl. German panzer grenadiers approach, assault guns leading, infantry shielded behind armored halls. They move confidently, boots splashing through ditch water. They expect resistance, but not this close. Raff whispers, "Quiet, quiet." The Germans are almost on top of them when Raff yells, "Fire!" Gunshots crack like snapping twigs in the fog. Grenadiers collapse, rifles clattering against stone. Bazooka teams spring up, firing at point-blank range. A shell slams into the lead assault gun, the explosion showering the bridge with molten steel. Ramirez hurls a gammon bomb, a homemade sack of explosives that sticks like glue. It slaps onto a tank track. Boom! The machine lurches sideways, blocking the crossing. Soldiers cheer, but only for a heartbeat. More engines rumble. Louder.
heavier. The next armor wave dwarfs the first. Panzer IVs and armored half-tracks grinding forward in layered formation. The Germans do not pause. Their orders are clear. Break through, reach the beaches, kill the invasion. Paratroopers dive for cover as machine gun fire buzzes the air like angry wasps. Mortars begin to fall, huge geysers of earth spraying skyward. Anders reloads, hands slick with sweat. How long do we hold, Joe? Ramirez grins, a wild, disbelieving grin, until they run out of tanks. At St. Maria Glise, Winters hears distant artillery. He grips his carbine tighter. Sounds like Lafayette needs more men. He turns to the nearest squad, farm boys, clerks, miners, none older than 21. We fight together. We move now. They sprint down narrow lanes, church bells still tolling, toward the sound of steel grinding on stone. Back at the causeway, the paratroopers bend but do not break. They slam fresh magazines, lob grenades, reload bazookas scavenged from dead comrades. Smoke, mud, and blood hide insignia and rank, every man equal in survival. The Germans push again and again. Bodies pile knee-high along the bridge railings, American and German alike. The water below runs red. A captured German officer, stunned and trembling, stares at Ramirez and whispers in disbelief, You are not soldiers. You are devils." Ramirez wipes grime from his eyes. "No, we're paratroopers." The Germans pull back, forced to regroup. The bridge still stands in American hands, for now. But this is just day one. The Wehrmacht's armored counterattack is gathering strength. Stugs, panzers, reserves, fresh infantry rolling from the direction of Carentan. St. Maria Glise remains a fragile spearhead. Lafayette remains a bloody bottleneck. And the panzers are not finished testing the resolve of the American Airborne. The battle for Normandy's lifelines has only begun. And soon, the biggest threat of all will arrive, the 2nd SS Das Reich Panzer Division.
June 7th, 1944. Lafayette Causeway, Normandy. A thin, gray dawn breaks over the flooded Meurthe River. Low mist hangs over the marsh, clinging to drowned hedgerows and broken farm carts, ghosts of a land turned to water by German engineers. On the causeway itself, the air stinks of burned oil, cordite, and death. Ramirez blinks grit from his eyes. He hasn't slept in 30 hours. His ears ring from near-constant explosions. His hands shake, not from fear anymore, but from exhaustion and the adrenaline that refuses to quit. He looks across the bridge. German bodies slump between twisted tank wrecks. The carcass of a Sherman, pushed forward from the beach, burns violently where it sits jammed against a stone wall, its ammunition cooking off with hollow thumps. Smoke swirls in the cold morning breeze. Lieutenant John Red Dog Raff limps over, Thompson resting against his shoulder. "You alive, Ramirez?" "Mostly." Raff pats him on the helmet. "And you're doing better than most." Reinforcements arrive. Figures emerge through the fog. Paratroopers in fresh faces and filthy gear. Winters leads them, breath steady, eyes sharp. He crouches beside Raff, surveying the ground. "What's left of your men?" Raff gestures to a group of haggard troopers, torn uniforms, blackened knuckles, eyes sunken. "Enough to hold if they come again." Winters plants his rifle butt on the ground. "Oh, they're coming again." The enemy returns. A distant rumble vibrates the earth. It grows and grows until the mist parts, revealing armored shadows advancing in tight formation. More than a dozen German tanks and assault guns grind forward, tracks tearing deep scars into the marsh dikes. Behind them, waves of panzer grenadiers, helmets low, boots synchronized. The Germans have decided. This bridge must be taken. Winter's voice cuts the tension. Bazooka crews, spread out. Machine guns, anchor the flanks.
Riflemen, pick your shots." He points toward the marsh. "If we fall, they drive straight to Utah. No second chances, no fallback." Ramirez slides into position near the collapsed cow cart. A newly arrived BAR gunner flops down beside him, skinny, scared, clutching his weapon like a lifeline. Ramirez taps his helmet. "Just hit what I hit." The kid nods, gulping hard. Hell opens again. German artillery screams overhead. Trees splinter, soil erupts. A blast rocks the causeway, men thrown like rag dolls into the reeds. Then machine guns chatter. Panzer cannons fire, rounds whizzing over the Americans, each one a death sentence gone wide. Winters moves along the line, calm, bullets slicing the air around him. "Steady, let them close." The first tank pushes onto the bridge. "Now!" A lone bazooka team rises, fires. The rocket slams square into the front glacis plate. No penetration. The tank keeps rolling. The loader curses. "We need the side! Get the side!" Ramirez sprints from cover, mud flying beneath his boots, gammon bomb primed in his fist. The tank's machine gun opens up, rounds smashing the stones behind him. He dives under the hull, slams explosives into the track, rolls. The blast flips him onto his back, ears deaf, vision white. The Panzer screeches, crippled, its crew bursting from hatches, hands raised, only to be cut down by rifle fire. More tanks press forward, 2, 3, 4, forcing paratroopers to pull back inches at a time. Winter shouts, rallying those still fighting. "Push them off the bridge! Don't give up a single stone!" Turning the tide. Suddenly the ground shakes, heavy treads, and a familiar profile emerges behind American lines. Sherman tanks. The 746th Tank Battalion, bulging through the fog, cannons elevated, turrets turning. One Sherman commander waves from the hatch. "Heard you boys needed a hand." The tanks roar in, flanking German armor. Armor-piercing shells hammer into German side plates, puncturing steel with brutal finality. Flames burst upward. German infantry scramble in panic. The assault shatters. One by one, the remaining panzers reverse, fleeing the kill zone, leaving burning wrecks and wounded comrades behind. A cheer rises, but cracks apart into coughing and quiet sobbing. The causeway is saved, for now, but at a cost carved into each survivor's bones. Ramirez slumps against the wall, gasping. Anders drops beside him, shaking his head. "They said Airborne couldn't stop tanks," he mutters. Ramirez stares at the blackened husks scattered across the bridge. "I guess we didn't get that memo." The legend takes root. German officers' reports now describe American paratroopers as unbreakable, fanatical, suicidally brave. The Allies have secured their basehead. The Germans have suffered their first major failure to throw them back, and the men who made it possible are those who fell from the sky with little more than rifles and raw defiance. But Normandy's fields will demand more blood. Carentan waits, and the 2nd SS Panzer Division is closing in fast. The paratroopers have won a bridge, but they are far from safe. The greatest stand of American airborne forces is still ahead.
June 10th to 12th, 1944. Carentan, France. Night settles over the Carentan approaches like a damp shroud. The air is thick with the smell of manure from nearby farms, mixed with gunpowder drifting over the hedgerows. Crickets chirp to the rhythm of distant artillery. Every tree, every bush, every shadow feels alive, waiting to kill. The prize is Carentan, a crossroads town linking Utah and Omaha Beach. Without it, the American footholds in Normandy remain two isolated wounds in Hitler's Atlantic Wall. Connect them, and the Allies gain momentum. Fail, and the invasion risks being cut in half. The Germans know this. So do the paratroopers. On the line, Major Dick Winters crouches inside a hedgerow gap, scanning the moonlit fields through field glasses. Beside him, Lieutenant Robert Cole's men of the 502nd PIR are stretched thin along flooded pastures, barbed wire, minefields, machine guns hidden behind every twist of the bocage. Cole wipes mud from his face. We take that farmhouse, kick the Krauts out of their rat holes, and don't stop until we reach the town square. Winters nods. You lead. I'll cover your left. Cole moves off, blowing quietly into his gloved hands. Tomorrow, he leads what will be remembered as Cole's Charge, one of the most desperate bayonet assaults of the war. Dawn, June 11th. The sun curls over the horizon. Mist lifts like a theater curtain, and the Germans reveal themselves. MG-42s open up. Mortars crash down. Rifles crack like snapping whips. Bull's men hit the dirt. Smoke! Smoke! Grenadiers lob smoke grenades, white clouds billowing across an open field. Visibility plunges, hearts pound. Cole rises to his feet, bayonet fixed. Follow me! He charges into the smoke. Dozens of airborne troops sprint after him, shouting war cries, boots hammering the mud. Bullets tear the air around them. Men trip, fall, tumble lifeless. Others surge forward, firing carbines from the hip. They break through. Hand-to-hand fighting erupts, grenades thrown into doorways, bayonets twisted between ribs, rifle butts smashed into helmets. The Germans, stunned by the ferocity, break and run into town. The field is won, but the cost lies scattered in the grass. Entering Carentan, Winters moves street to street, rifle raised, boots crunching broken glass. Buildings are pocked by bullet holes. German snipers lurk in attic windows. Every corner threatens new death. Private Joe Ramirez and Corporal Anders peel off into a ruined storefront, breath fogging in the cool air. Anders grips Ramirez's shoulder. We're almost through this. Ramirez nods, but his eyes betray a deeper truth. He's not sure he believes it. Then a sound changes everything. Treads. Dozens of them. Fast. The 2nd SS Panzer Division, Das Reich, has arrived. The counterattack. The Germans hurl armor and elite infantry straight into Carentan from the south. Panzer Grenadiers fan out between shops, firing from door frames. Stuggai assault guns blast holes through stone walls. The city shakes. Paratroopers fall back, forming a desperate line near the northern edge of town. Radios crackle with half-panicked reports. Their ammo is low, casualties mounting. Winters grabs a runner. Tell them we need tanks. Tell them we need them now. Ramirez and Anders slide into a doorway, bracing for the end. Ramirez checks his last magazine. Only 5 rounds left. The roar of engines grows louder, metallic thunder vibrating the cobbles. Ramirez grips Anders' arm. Is that them? The answer comes in a blue plume of dust. Shermans and armored half-tracks burst into the square. The 29th Infantry Division, fresh from Omaha Beach, slams into the German flank with everything they have. Tank guns flash, bazooka teams fire from cover, machine guns rake the streets. The SS advance collapses, vehicles burning, infantry falling back amidst shouts of "Zurück! Zurück!" Cheers erupt from paratroopers everywhere, ragged, disbelieving, triumphant. Winters lowers his rifle, chest heaving. We did it, he mutters. Carentan is secure. The beachheads are united. Aftermath. Ramirez sinks to the curb, staring down at shaking hands. Anders offers him a cigarette. You held, Joe. That's what matters. Ramirez lights it, inhales, exhales a shaky laugh. Yeah, guess tanks aren't so scary after all. Anders snorts. Try telling that to the next ones. A reputation earned in blood. German field reports now draw a fearful conclusion. These airborne troops, they do not surrender. They fight until death. From Sicily to Normandy, lightly armed paratroopers had done the impossible. They held off panzer divisions, again and again and again. The Germans would not underestimate American airborne forces ever again. But the war isn't over. The hedgerow battles grind on.
Operation Market Garden looms ahead. Bastogne waits beneath falling snow. These men who fell from the sky have proven their worth, yet many of their greatest trials still lie ahead.
December 19th, 1944, Bastogne, Belgium. Snowfall drifts sideways through a frozen forest. Bare trees groan under the weight of ice. The temperature has plunged below zero, the kind of cold that eats through wool and skin and bone. Every breath stings like knives. The 101st Airborne has arrived in Bastogne with no winter gear, no heavy ammunition, no proper artillery support, barely any time to rest after months of combat in Holland. Sergeant Joe Ramirez, older now, eyes harder, movements slower, trudges into the encircled town with Anders and what's left of their platoon. Frost clings to their eyelashes. Most have only one blanket. Some wear boots lined with newspaper. They've been sent here to do one thing: hold Bastogne, hold the roads, hold the line. German armor, the entire Kampfgruppen of the 2nd Panzer and Panzerlehr divisions are already closing the ring. Bastogne is the cork in the bottle. If it pops, the Germans will pour westward to the Meuse and split the Allied armies in two. And Hitler's commanders know exactly who stands in their way: the paratroopers. The siege begins. Artillery whistles overhead. The first shells crash into the town square, shredding rooftops and hurling bodies through glass storefronts. The ground trembles like a living beast beneath their boots. Winters, now a major, rallies the men. Dig deep. Use the houses. Make every shot count. Foxholes chip out frozen earth, brittle and stubborn like iron. Knuckles split and bleed. Men curse through chattering teeth. German loudspeakers blare across the snow. "Amerikaner, you are surrounded! Surrender now and live!" Ramirez spits into the snow. We've heard that before, but the truth gnaws at them. This time, there is no escape. The Germans offer terms. December 22nd. White flags flutter along the German line. Messengers arrive demanding American surrender to avoid unnecessary bloodshed. The response comes from Brigadier General Anthony McAuliffe. Just one word: nuts. Paratroopers cackle with delirious pride. Even surrounded, freezing, half-starved, they refuse to bend. Panzers in the pines. German armor advances through the woods, black silhouettes in the snowy dawn. Tigers and panthers push forward, their engines snarling like iron beasts. Infantry follows behind, swarming through trees and foxholes like a winter tide. Ramirez shoulders a bazooka, hands numb. He waits until the tank's muzzle flash blinds him with fire. He and Anders rise, launch. Boom! A panther erupts in flame. Machine gun fire rips the air. Anders falls, screaming, a round tearing into his thigh. Ramirez drags him back through the snow, boots slipping on frozen earth. Blood steams in the cold air. "Stay with me, Bill. Stay with me." German infantry surge closer, rifles barking. Winters appears behind a splintered oak, Thompson chattering bursts of fire. Paratroopers pour lead into the enemy advance. Grenades arc through tree limbs, detonating white-hot shrapnel. The Germans fall back. Another attack broken. Another day survived. But every victory feels thinner. The long dark, days blur. No food except frozen rations gnawed like tree bark. No medical supplies. Wounded men scream through winter nights. Snow turns pink where medics kneel in prayer. Ramirez sits beside Anders in a basement-turned-aid station. His friend's breathing is shallow. The bandage on his leg is soaked through. "You'll walk out of here," Ramirez says, trying for a grin. Anders forces a smile. "Yeah, sure, right behind the tanks." The breakthrough. December 26th, afternoon. Rumors ripple through the streets. "Armor coming up the road! American tanks! They're ours!" Ramirez and the others stumble outside, squinting into the blinding sun reflected off snow. Through the pines, a Sherman tank rumbles forward, white star shining like a promise on its turret. It is the spearhead of Patton's Third Army. Men cheer, some just collapsing in relief, some are just sobbing. The siege is broken. Ramirez grips Anders' hand as stretcher teams carry him out of the cold.
Told you, we don't break. A final judgment. Captured German officers later admit they expected Bastogne to fall in 48 hours. It was held for 8 days, surrounded by tanks, short of everything except courage. The verdict from the German High Command: American paratroopers are the toughest we've faced. From Sicily to Normandy to the Ardennes, the story repeats. Armor advances, airborne stands, armor stops. Snow keeps falling over Bastogne. Quiet now, peaceful, blanketing foxholes where heroes froze, fought, and refused to yield. The war will continue into Germany. More battles, more scars. But the legend is already carved into history. The men who dropped from the sky and proved unstoppable on the ground.